Okay, hello. Welcome to the last session. My name is Andre and with me is my colleague Sesh, and we will show you how SAP supports process automation for business users supported with intelligence technologies like machine learning, conversational user experience, and RPA. In the last 2 days, we saw that intelligent automation is a hot topic, and the line of business will more and more drive automation efforts without running big IT projects. With Intelligent BPM is a collection of cloud services including workflow, decision management, and process visibility. The collection builds the core of the process extension machinery that helps to connect people with digital processes in a low-code approach. In a central hub, customers' SAP applications are usually based on well-documented business processes. We are now turning these documented processes into live processes. And applications are providing blueprints for business processes, and customers can discover, configure, and extend them. In a central hub, customers can learn more about these processes, and they can see involved systems and drill down into details. They can also see the sub-processes and see how a typical implementation would look like. Instead of starting a big implementation project, business users can now customize these processes right away. With a configuration option, business users can create and adjust different variants and set them immediately live in the system. The configuration is easy to understand. Applications provide predefined building blocks, and users can put them together with drag and drop. Technically, this is simplified BPMN with sub-processes that are provided by our business applications. Once the configuration is completed, a user can activate the process variant and turn it into a running process. Underneath, we are simply creating a technical workflow that is in the end running on our workflow service. Since every building block is technically defined with a workflow, customers can even define own building blocks from scratch or based on a template. And these custom building blocks will as well appear in the library of available steps. Expert users can then operate the processes with BPM or with the business applications. But we already saw that the expectation how to interact with processes is changing. So with conversational user experience, we offer access to processes in a more convenient way. A digital assistant is connected to different applications and uses machine learning to understand natural language. The assistant is exposing BPM functionalities so that users can drive a process forward in a structured or unstructured way. In this example, the assistant gets user details from HR and the required roles from decision management. Finally, he predicts the next action based on machine learning. But automation can, of course, also happen in more complex scenarios. A user might need to get data from a document and then put it into another system. With robotic process automation, a user can easily record such activities and then run them as a robot, attended or in self-driving mode. The recorded robot is using the same UI that the user would use. However, if possible, it will automatically use native APIs instead. And machine learning helps to understand unstructured data or identifies new execution patterns. And again, we are applying the same concept. Business users adjust the robot with a simplified view, and we are finally translating the robot into a technical workflow that is running on our workflow service, along with out-of-the-box visibility and other functionalities that we are offering. This, in the end, enables content fluency, and customers can run the robots or can case-by-case decide to transition a robot into a modeled workflow. And this way, developers can easily adjust or extend it on the level of BPMN. And content fluency also happens in the level of tasks. Our business applications are creating user tasks as part of a process or standalone. And all these tasks coming from the cloud or on-premise are collected in a unified inbox. So we saw that business users can turn documented processes into live processes. Workflow and RPA is based on the same runtime and enables the transition from robot to modeled workflow. And conversational user experience and machine learning is embedded into all of it. And we will now see this in action in the demo.
Okay, so this is Asia. Morning, everyone. So what I'll be showing in the next 15 minutes or so is I'll run through the intelligent business process management services in the context of an employee onboarding scenario in the HR. Right. So we are working closely with SAP SuccessFactors, which is a cloud-based HR solution, and they wanted to use SAP's cloud platform workflow to automate or orchestrate the entire onboarding process. So with this, there is a unique challenge for us, where onboarding process is something which has got a lot of variance. So an onboarding for an entry-level developer is different from an onboarding for a C-level executive. And there might be certain rules that might require a drug check, maybe for a pilot. Or maybe you want to do some visa validation for certain employees who are relocating. So these steps are very random based on the roles and based on other characteristics of the employee. And the customer needs flexibility to accommodate all of these into their business process. So how do we solve it? So this is an outlook of our vision of what we are working on and how we try to solve this issue. So what you're looking at is SAP's API Business Hub. This is something which is already there. If you go to api.sap.com, you can see all the APIs, the integration content, and the events are already available there. But what we also want to publish is the notion of live processes. Right from, let's say, when I go into the hire to retire, so this is the entire umbrella of a process that actually starts from the hiring of an employee, managing the workforce, that includes payroll, compensation, etc., and finally the offboarding of it. So all of this is now documented here. So that is one part, and the dependent processes are also available here. So this is all good. So it's all about documentation. Things are available here. We can see, look at the specific process. We can see how complex are there, what are the different swim lanes, which systems are involved in that. But all of these are also clickable. So now if I click on the onboarding process, I can go into a specific onboarding workflow that is coming out with SAP SuccessFactors to orchestrate their process. So we also get a high-level workflow of it, great. But now customer want to configure this. So how do we do that? So we have enabled a configure button in places where it can be configured. So when a customer clicks on that, he is directed into, we call it as a process flexibility workbench. So this is a place for the LOB experts to work on the business process, process level configurations, and make it live, like how Andre told in the presentation. So here you have different elements that you can actually work with in a process. So first, let's look at a process variant. So these are the different, there are default process variant, that default process that is coming up with the business solution. And of course, if you want to customize it, let's say you want to click on this and you want to customize the workflow that is delivered by default. So you are taken to the managed process variant application where the default process is available here. It might look a very simple workflow right here, but these are very abstracted, simplified representation of the actual workflow that is orchestrating them. So each of these activities that you see here, they are the building blocks, which is as per the business configuration of onboarding scenario in this case. So this could be a workflow by itself, or it could be a set of activities that is done in SAP SuccessFactors or any business applications, or it could be just a simple API call or a combination of all of them. So this is already available as part of SuccessFactors when you configure onboarding process in the SuccessFactors system. So now let's say this is a default one. I don't want certain things, so I can just select, let's say I don't want to collect personal data, so I can remove them. Or let's say I want to send a notification welcome message towards the end. And of course, it comes with certain metadata, so which building blocks can come, which building blocks can precede certain building blocks. All the restrictions are also available there. So now I've created a new version of this process. I can just click on activate, and this version will now be available as one of the versions, the variants of onboarding process. Of course, we've also got the decisions that are part of the rules that are part of the standard onboarding process, which the LOB users can configure. So in this case, we have a rule to determine equipment. And similarly, the themes and functions, the roles, the people who are involved in that, all of that can be configured as well. And the next thing is, since it is a workflow that is orchestrating the entire process, all of these events that occur within the workflow are automatically recorded. And you can just go to the process workspace, where all of these events are listed here. And now here in this process workspace, you can define what kind of dashboard you want to create to get visibility out of this workflow process that you're looking at. So these are the different events that are available. You can define phases, when a certain phases will start or end based on the events, and status, attributes, context, and all that. And you can also define the process performance indicator that you want to see in your dashboard. So here the representation depends on case-to-case basis. We support different kinds of representation, whether you want to see it in a tabular format, a donut, what kind of chart that you want to see. And once you define it, this is all the configuration that we have, and we are taking a no-code, low-code approach for most of the business user-facing tooling. So once you activate it, so this is the kind of dashboard that is automatically generated with no coding that is involved. Okay, so let's give it some time to get it load. And all of these are interactive as well. So you can look at the current onboardings that are going on, how many of them are risk defined based on the status that you have defined. So I can go to the details of it. Okay, so there is some network issue. Okay, it's a little slow though. So I can go to the details of a specific onboarding which is at risk. You can get more contextual information, the phases that you have actually defined, and also the path they have actually taken, including the time between the events. Okay. Okay. So now when you go back to the process visibility workbench, the next one that we want to see is about the extensions. Yes, so now whatever the building blocks we saw in the managed process variant is something which was coming by default from SuccessFactors. Now what if I want to have my own custom extension into the business process? So of course you can create your own workflow in the Cloud Platform Workflow, but we also from SAP as well as from SAP's partners, we also provide the extension capabilities. So when you are into SAP SuccessFactors onboarding process and go to the details of it, we have the certain extensions that are pre-delivered as well, which the customer can download it. So now let's take an example of equipment provisioning. So I'll go to the details of the equipment provisioning. Of course, there is some documentation about it, but here the implementation wizard is enabled. So I go into the implementation part of it. Okay, so it's a rendering issue. So we'll go into it, and we call this as a recipe which is delivered in SAP's Cloud Platform. So what is it? What is a recipe? So recipe is a sequence of steps, a wizard that will guide the user to perform certain action. In this case, we want to create an extension for equipment provisioning. So you need to create a workflow, maybe a decision table if there are any rules that are available, and probably certain configurations that are required to enable this. So you choose the sub account where you want to deploy it, the space where you want to deploy this workflow, and assign it to a development project. And once you finalize it, it actually deploys it in the background and imports it in SAP Web IDE. So now let me open the SAP Web IDE. And so this is the workflow project that was imported. So as you know, the Cloud Platform Workflow is a browser-based tooling. So we have already shown it last year, so I won't go into the details of it. But this is the workflow project that was imported as part of a standard template via recipes. Of course, the customers can customize it and then just deploy into the Cloud Platform. As simple as that. So once you have this deployed in Cloud Platform, and when you go back to the process flexibility workbench, now you should be able to see the new extensions that you've got for equipment provisioning. And when I go into the process variants application again, now we have the new equipment provisioning available as an extension. Now I can just quickly add it into where I want to have it in my process, and then save and activate this. So when you activate a particular variant, we internally generate the workflow, the more complex workflow, and deployed in the cloud platform that actually orchestrates the entire business process in SuccessFactors. So this is the experience that we want to provide to our customers who want to discover the business processes, and they want to configure it, they want to extend it, and continuously run and optimize it via the visibility and the process mining tools that we already offer. So this was one unique challenge that we talked about, where the business users want to configure the process. Now let's go into the persona of a manager who is actually expecting a few onboardees that are going to join. So this is the execution of the process, how it will look like. So I actually have a Google Home at house, and when I say good morning to it in the morning, the sequence of actions it actually takes, of course, responds back, gives a current weather, provide me a traffic update to my work, and it also reads the top news. So we wanted to achieve something similar like that with our Copilot. So this is a digital assistant that is built into SAP's portal. So this is a digital assistant, which means you can chat with it, you can converse with it, you can use a keyboard to type it, or there is also a native mobile application which you can talk to over voice. So what we have done is we have actually enabled certain skills that comes pre-delivered with SAP's Cloud Platform workflow. And let's say I'm going to start with manager. He doesn't know what are the tasks that he has to work on. He's going to say, maybe I'll use the mic. How's my day? So I'll just talk to it, and it responds back with a sequence of series of actions that he can perform. So here I need to take time to explain what is actually happening here in the background. So this is not a very syntactical oriented chatbot what you have. It is based out of SAP's Conversational AI bot building platform together with Copilot, where you consume it. So this has got natural language processing. It can recognize the voice in different languages. It can also identify the sentiment that you're talking with, the sentence types, and it can also identify certain entities by default. For example, what do I mean by entity? If I say a name, it knows that it's a name and not anything else. And similarly for a location, a duration, like this, there are different 20 or 30 different entities that you can already identify. So with this rich NLP that we have got here, and with the machine learning that actually predicts what exactly the user is actually trying to tell, it is very robust. It's not a syntax-based chatbot. So, and that is with respect to the recognition of what I'm trying to tell. But if you see the output of it, he's presented with certain information that is consolidated from different services. For example, I have some information from the SuccessFactors system, the HR system, that says that there are few employees, subordinates who will be onboarded into the team over the next 3 weeks. And it not just stops there, it is running a machine learning algorithm which we deliver along with a process visibility dashboard that we saw earlier, which actually predicts the cycle time, or it predicts when certain events can occur using machine learning, obviously. And it is also proposing that, okay, you might have to work on that over here. And it also shows a consolidated tasks that he actually has. He can say, show my tasks over here. And it will pull up tasks from different business applications. So if I look at all the tasks that I've got, all of these are interactive as well. Let's say I want to look into the illness leave request that I've got. I've got more information that I have to take an informed decision. So I can go and say, okay, approve second task. So this is again a part of the NLP. It knows that second task from the list, so it approves it. And yeah, that's there. So now the next thing that I want to check with is go into the onboarding application that is available in SAP's portal, because it actually predicted that the equipment is going to be delayed for a particular employee. So I'll go into the onboarding application, and so I can see Alex Flowers. He's going to join by in another 7 days. So let me quickly predict. Yeah, so I want to just ask whether the equipment for Alex arrived on time. And now the chatbot knows that the context that we are talking about. So it's not Alex as in Alexander or any other Alex. So it knows that the context where I am in and identifying that we are looking for Alex flowers and running the machine learning algorithm in the background to predict the cycle time and also come up with the date by which it should, the equipment should arrive. So this is not good because the equipment will arrive by 27, but he is going to join 3 days ahead. So his productivity is going to get affected. So I want to go into the detail of this particular employee and see the big picture of what is actually happening. So the manager is presented with one view of the onboarding, a simplified version of the process that's actually happening in the SuccessFactors system, and what are the steps that are assigned to him and what are the steps that are going to do in certain future. So he can see that there is a task for approving equipment. So of course he can try to approve it right from here, or he can go into the My Inbox application, or he can also go into the SuccessFactors application to perform the same kind of task. So as you can see, he is interacting with the application, the process is moving forward. So the entire workflow is orchestrating this onboarding process. Now let's try to see if there is any improvement. So let me try to put the same set of query again. So now there are no delays expected. So even though the task wasn't due immediately, but because of predictive algorithm that we have got, he knows that this is a task that needs to be worked on priority and not something which is already due or which is of more higher priority. So this is with respect to the tasks that he can already see, but there are some ad hoc tasks as well. For example, requesting for roles and authorizations in the systems, the IT systems, and identifying the workplace, the desk, the chair for him. So these are ad hoc tasks that he has to log into a different applications to figure it out. But we have also enabled the skills for all that. So let me try to get the roles for Alex. And here again I have to explain what's happening in the background. So when you say Alex, of course it identifies it from the context of the screen I'm in. I'm looking at Alex Flowers and not someone else. And it also identifies that for getting a role that needs to be assigned to Alex, it needs to have certain elements of this employee for maybe a job profile. So this understanding was already available to the chatbot, and it then executed a decision table to figure out what are the roles that are required for this employee. And it doesn't just stop there, it also runs a machine learning algorithm to predict the next best action that usually the people take after asking that question. So yes, I want to create a ticket to assign these roles. This is pretty straightforward. It actually uses a REST API and creates an IT ticket, and again predicts the next best action. So yes, of course I want to find a desk for him. In this case I'm just getting one action because we keep on feeding this data to the chatbot. So this is exactly what we are following in the demo script. Okay, so now we have completed the ad hoc task that we have using the chatbot. So this way we can proceed further in this. So that said, how difficult or easy it is to create such a skill. So I just want to spend a couple of minutes to explain how we created the skill. So with Copilot, if you have an OData service that performs the CRUD operations, in a matter of few minutes, you can create a skill, let's say to create a sales order. So you provide the OData service endpoint saying that this is the skill I want to create for. I want to support create, of course not a delete. I want to create and read is what I want to support. You choose what are the attributes that are required to create a sales order, and the skill is automatically generated. This is with respect to OData. But what we used in this is using SAP Conversational AI Bot Builder platform. Right? So here we already had an introduction about intent. So here also we have the same concept of first we need to train the bot to understand what the user is actually telling. So we have, for example, let me take an example of list task. So here we mention or train the bot with certain expressions or the utterances which the customer or the end user would actually be using. So when you enter these things, it automatically trains and it is already ready to understand what the user is actually trying to tell. So I'll just quickly just test it over here. I'll say show my tasks as 1. So it identifies it as referring to the intent list task. But what is more interested is in the NLP part of it. So it predicted with a 99% confidence that this is the task that they want to do it. And it also has, it didn't identify any entities, but it also identify what is a kind of the act. So we are actually commanding it to do something, and there is no type, and the sentiment is neutral. So you have all these information right out of the box from the conversational AI. So now we have done with the training part of it. We identify what is the intent that they want to do it. Now let's try to build it. So before that, the list task is already there, so I'll just disable it. So now if I go here, so again going to test it, I'm going to say show my tasks. Yeah, so it doesn't understand what to do because we don't have that skill enabled yet. So now let's quickly try to create the skill. So I want to say list my task is the name of the skill. I want to create the skill and go into the details of it. I want to mention what is the trigger for this skill to be executed. So in my case, we already know when the user says list my task, then that is a thing. But there are also different entities, like I said, which automatically determined by the NLP. For example, the ordinal, the money, the URL, nationality. There are different entities that you can see which the bot can automatically determine. So based on which you can have a combination of it. And also the bot also has its own memory, so you can also do that. And not just the entity, you can also say I want this confidence. The confidence of the list task is, let's say, greater than 90%. Only then you want to execute or trigger this skill. Yeah, so it's actually endless, and you can add multiple such conditions with an and and an or, basically to identify what is the trigger. Then comes the requirement part of it. So for listing a task, maybe you don't need a requirement. But let's say you want to say approve second task or approve 10th task or approve the last task, then you need to know this position of which task needs to be approved. If I just say approve task, then it will ask for which task do you want to approve, right? So these are the kind of requirements that you can actually say that is required for the skill. And finally, an action. What happens when the skill is triggered? Okay, so I'll add a new message group. There are different options that we can have. Of course, you can send a static message of different entities, different things that are supported, but this is not what I want to have. What I want is a webhook because I want to get the real-time information about it. And of course, we have already delivered this as we will be delivering this as a microservice. Certain things that you already seen, like getting the task, getting a day's brief, approving or rejecting a task. These things will be provided as a microservice from SAP. And so provide the basic authentication or the OAuth. So in this case, I'm going to use it as a tech user and provide a password for that. And save it. Now we have enabled the skill. Now let's try this again to say show my tasks. Okay, so let's try to clear this, clear the cache. I'll try it again. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, because of the this one, so I'll just remove this and provide the confidence as 0.90 because the representation of confidence is in decimal. So now let me try that again. Okay, so now the skill is ready. So what we saw is how quickly you can create a skill in the conversational AI and integrate the same with a business application using SAP Copilot. So what we have seen here is the intelligent aspect of the BPM suite of services that we have got at SAP's cloud platform. And where we are going towards is to enable the business users to easily configure these business processes, manage the variance, and also continuously optimize it. And we also provide the machine learning and the conversational user experience capabilities to achieve what we call it as an intelligent BPM. Thank you, and open for questions. So this is a lab preview, but we are actively working on it, and you should be able to see this in the coming months.
When you say that, do you mean that it'll be added to the SAP HRMS?
Yeah, so the conversational experience and the machine learning comes with workflow, the cloud platform workflow, irrespective of whether you're using it in the onboarding context or a different business application or as a standalone workflow. So the conversational ability and the machine learning would be part of the workflow. And we are closely working with SuccessFactors, and once they are available because this requires configurations from both process, from our side, whatever I showed, and also from the business configuration as well. Right? So when all of these adaptations are available, then it will be part of SuccessFactors as well.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.